Hi, I'm Jennifer Cushman with the Responsible Budget Coalition. In a few moments, you'll watch a video of a presentation that we did for some members on best practices for legislative advocacy, specific to the state budget impasse. Before it begins, I want to remind you that as an individual constituent or a representative of an organization that serves or has members in a legislator's district, your role is critical. Sometimes people feel intimidated when meeting with an elected official, but I want to remind you that as a constituent, you are equally important to anyone your legislator meets with. This is your opportunity to represent members of your community or those your organization serves and give a voice to them. They're counting on you. So in meeting with your lawmaker, be confident in carrying your message and don't be afraid to apply pressure. It's okay to disagree and to show that you aren't happy. In fact, it's by creating tension with your lawmaker that we can collectively create movement in this impasse. The video identifies 3 elements of a successful legislative meeting. The first is delivering your message. Second is making a concrete ask. And third is holding your legislator accountable by following up after the meeting. Watch for these items in the video and stay tuned for the role play that demonstrates these best practices in action. Thanks for watching.
Bill said also when you're meeting with legislators, practice is really important, preparing what you're going to say, preparing materials to bring with you that you want to share. If you're meeting with a group, who has each role in the meeting and things like that. So practicing and planning ahead is really helpful to make the meeting as effective as it can be. So to turn to the legislative advocacy guide, I'm just going to focus on at the very top. It says definition of a successful meeting with your lawmaker, and there's 3 points there. So the first point is that you deliver your message. Similarly to when you're talking to the media, you're going to have a short period of time with your legislator, whether it's at the Capitol or in our office, there's a concrete period of time. So you want to make sure that you deliver your message. And if things get off track, you just pivot back to it and make sure that they hear your message. And in this budget impasse, the message is you want to share with them the impact that you're seeing, that all of you have identified, the impact that's happening in their district. That's the problem that you're coming to them with, right? This is the thing that you're passionate about. And the other half of that message is the solutions, which we talked about, is that we need revenue to fund the service that's needed, and that the budget needs to be the priority over non-budget issues so we can end impasse and get these things funded. So just to hone in on that message clearly and deliver that to your lawmaker. The second point there is to make a concrete ask. In order to hold lawmakers accountable, it's important to have an ask for them and something that they can do and that they can report back to you on. And that brings us to number 3, which is holding your lawmaker accountable. So after you make that ask, it's really important to follow up when you said you would, a week later, 2 weeks later, and check back with them on the ask and how did that go. So what we're recommending our members do in this particular budget crisis situation is to ask their lawmaker to share their message with leadership and then report back to them. That's the ask that we're recommending, because we feel like the pressure on the lawmaker carries up the chain to where the decisions are made. We know there have been comments made on the floor by Leader Durkin, for example, about his rank and file coming to him because they're hearing from their constituents. So we feel like that's really powerful. Another thing that we have recommended is to bring the impact that you're all sharing, is to bring something written down. Bring that just written down on a piece of paper with your message that adequate revenue is needed to fund these services and that the budget needs to be the priority. Something you can hand to the lawmaker, put in their hand, that they can actually physically take to their leadership and share their constituents' needs. So the rest of this front sheet is kind of some general tips on meeting with the legislator, just general best practices. The back, second side of the sheet, at the top has some other specific doable asks, that just other sample questions. At the bottom, we have a few statements that we often hear from lawmakers, and these come from our member organizations when they have met with lawmakers about the budget impasse. These are things that they have been told by the lawmaker, things the lawmaker has said to kind of derail the conversation or to deflect away from responsibility, and we've come up with some suggested responses to those. So I know we're running a little short of time, so I think we're going to do a quick role play of that and then give you folks all an opportunity to practice and let us know how that goes. So Dan's our legislator. He's Representative Smith.
So what brings
church in your district, Jacksonville Church, and I'm here with youth services. They provide homeless youth services to the area, and I will tell you more about that. Our church works with this organization, and we've come to learn about how this organization is not receiving funding due to the budget impasse. I'm really concerned about that, and it's also impacting the youth that they serve. We've learned through this organization that over 90% of homeless providers across the state have actually not received funding, and they have had to cut services and staff as well. So I'm going to let Naya talk a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Naya, and I'm the Director of Youth Services here. And I've already had to cut one staff that work with our organization. And we usually serve about 12 homeless youth, and we have a shelter where the homeless youth stay. But because of the budget impasse, we've had to cut that down to 9. We have partners in the community with schools, and schools have contacted us to let us know, hey, we are in need of your services, or we have youth who are in need of your services, as well as our local police station. They usually come to us if they encounter runaways or have youth who have issues at home. And because of the budget impasse, we've not been able to assist. The budget impasse is really just affecting us in a way that we didn't know that we would be in these circumstances. And so we're here today to ask you, will you put non-budget items aside and choose revenue instead of cuts to this important resource in our district?
Well, I think, first of all, this budget impasse is horrible. It's awful. I know how it's affecting everyone, affecting the services we provide, which I've always supported and should be fully funded. But it's going to take some compromise to settle this matter, and we all know the governor is stubborn, the speaker's stubborn, but the governor has been willing to compromise. Speaker Madigan hasn't been, and that's why we can't get this thing settled.
Well, I mean, first, we believe that the budget should be the priority over agenda items. With families, communities, youth services that are important in the district and our community should be the top priority. And also when you say compromise, I'm concerned that what you're really saying is cuts, that some services should have cuts.
Well, I think it's going to take a balance. We're going to need a balance of cuts and revenues to solve this problem. Now, that doesn't mean I think your program should be cut. I'm not saying that, but we do need to find some cuts in this budget.
The budget impasse is wiping out services for youth. That's the bottom line. And for youth who are already in a hard situation, this is stopping their opportunities to get jobs, to further their education, for them to stay outside of the justice system. For us, this budget impasse is not just for today or tomorrow, but it affects what these youth will be in the future. And it's stopping them from having the opportunity to be productive members of society. So these services reduce costly incarceration, unemployment, and chronic homelessness. And those are things that we think are important and should be important for you.
Well, I'm all for solving this budget crisis. I wish we could solve it tomorrow. And I support human services, not just you, but I support human services. But the fact of the matter is that we need to make some changes. We need some reforms in the state. We've got to take the fetters off of business and unleash our job creators. And so that's an important thing. And if we do that, there'll be more money to pay for human services.
Well, we think that services are an important part of our economy. People who work for human services organizations, they're workers, they're part of our economy. And as Naya mentioned, services, for example, for homeless youth, that's an important, part of our economy as well. Those homeless youth, they need to access education, and become taxpayers and self-sufficient adults. And otherwise, there's going to be higher costs, if those cuts are instituted. So, we think that the cuts are harming our economy right now. And, you know, the real issue is revenue. You know, we don't think there need to be cuts. We don't want to see any cuts. You know, this is just one service provider in the community, but, you know, at our church we have a lot of, you know, members that are being impacted in other ways. There's lots of services in the community that, you know, relate to each other. And we know that revenue can be raised instead. And there's a lot of options to raise revenue. We have a list of revenue options that we can share with you. And, you know, we think that should be the choice, that revenue should be chosen instead of harmful cuts.
Well, you made a lot of good points here today, so I appreciate that. I will say this though, you know, I'm like a minnow in the ocean here. We've got, you know, the speaker and the governor, and this is between them. There's very little or nothing that I can do about this. I'm just being real candid with you.
Well, you know, we're your constituents. You represent us, and so we're coming to you with our concerns, and we really need your leadership now than ever. You know, we made a statement of impact of what's happening at the youth service provider and some other organizations. Will you take this statement to Leader Durkin and share it with him and report back to us and let us know how that conversation went?
Yes, I'd be happy to share this with Leader Durkin and the impact that this has had on my district, and I'll talk to him. But I do have to say, there's got to be a balance, and there's got to be reforms as part of this package.
Okay, thank you for your time. I'll call you next week if that's okay, to see how your conversation went with Leader Durkin. We appreciate that you're meeting with us, and I will say that we are disappointed that our concerns are taking a back seat to the governor's turnaround agenda.
Gotcha.